Good evening and welcome to this edition of Tok Piksa. This year, Papua New Guinea celebrates its 40th year of independence. That's 40 years of experiences and, with regard to our traditional cultures, 40 years of growing Western influence. While many of our unique cultures are steadfastly adapting to development and change, there are some that are in danger of being lost. Later on in the show, we hear about the story of the people of Tok in the Madang province and their fight to preserve what they consider a dying language and cultural tradition. But first, we look at the latest public-private partnership by the current government, and this time it's in the health sector. Pacific International Hospital, or PIH, recently opened the new state-of-the-art facility in Port Moresby. And with the opening, the government has invested in specialist healthcare that has previously been non-existent in the country. With the new CT scanner, cath lab, MRI scanner, and neurosurgical theater, it is hoped that more public-private partnerships will see subsidized costs so Papua New Guineans can access vital medical services in the country instead of going overseas for treatment.
Every year, Papua New Guineans spend hundreds of thousands of kina on specialized medical health care and treatment overseas. It's a costly exercise, but a necessary one for those needing the life-saving treatment. The new Pacific International Hospital brings some level of relief with its newly introduced world-class facilities. Although PIH has been in operation for 17 years, the public-private partnership with the government this time has brought healthcare to new heights of national significance with this new hospital. At the recent launch of the new PIH, key stakeholders from the private sector and the government, including Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, were taken on a tour of the new building and the life-saving medical equipment. The high-profile delegation were taken on a tour to see the new CT scan, the new cath lab, new MRI scanner, and the neurosurgical theater. The hospital announced it would also soon open a retinal surgery for near-blind people to have their eyesight restored. The hospital also has a well-acquainted presidential suite for health check. Chairman of the hospital board, Semoy Ave, said this particular partnership between government and the private sector was making history in healthcare delivery in Papua New Guinea.
That the national government has to address the issue of a subsidy. We do not have a comprehensive healthcare service or insurance service that will allow people, individuals who have no means to have access to modern healthcare facilities. But only through a subsidy scheme that ought to be provided not only to PIH, but also to other approved hospitals throughout the length and breadth of Papua New Guinea.
Chief Executive Officer of PIH, Dr. Amina Sultan, said in the 17 years of the hospital's operations, PIH has rendered its healthcare services according to whatever its patients required.
Sophisticated neurological diagnosis and more advanced neurosurgical care, whether it involves the brain or the spine. Open heart surgery that we are indebted to the Australian team that comes on an annual basis, but will now be possible all year round.
Minister for State Enterprise Ben Micah praises the achievements of the public-private partnership.
Is that you have embarked on, like the policy to ensure that all Papua New Guinean children born to any mother in this country is able to read and write, is able to be educated, is able to absorb some value in their learning and their knowledge. That is why we are driving this policy of free and subsidized education. That is going to underpin the modernization of our country into the future. But an educated person without good health, without access to knowledge about nutrition and diet and all these things, is just a walking, dying man. So therefore, your other policy on health, which is now making strides in the areas of support for health throughout the country, is another example of a government you are leading that is focused on the well-being of people of human beings who are the most enduring and important asset of any nation.
The issue of cost for treatment was also highlighted. Dr. Salton said stakeholders and potential partners must collaborate to create a scheme or financial subsidy for patients to access specialist medical services and treatment until the services become available in the public health system. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill said the government would assist.
We will continue to do that. We're not only providing funding for infrastructure, but we're providing funding for training, providing funding for increased availability of equipment and medical medicines to many parts of our hospital. Many remote centers in the country are starting to receive medicines on time and delivered on time to their respective aid posts. Also, government, through its District Service Improvement Program and PSIP, large portion of that fund, 1.5 billion kina, large portion of that fund goes to the health sector in the country, funding district aid posts and health centers and hospitals. So you can see that healthcare is an important issue to our government, and I'm very pleased to be here because this is the sort of partnership governments alone cannot do it. We must partner the private sector. And I'm very glad that the Minister and IPBC are going to partner you on the expansion program that you are going to roll out into the future.
You're watching Tok Piksa. Papua New Guinea's constitution has been described as being one of the best in the world. Its details speak volumes of the amount of consultation and effort that was put into capturing the vision and essence of a unique nation. A huge part of that uniqueness is the diverse natural environment and cultures throughout the country. The Constitution recognizes this by urging all Papua New Guineans to conserve their diversities for future generations and encourages our development to be guided by our Papua New Guinean ways of social, political, and economic interaction. A community in Madang has taken this to heart, and they have devised a system that works to protect what they have and hopefully revive what they have lost. This compelling story by Sarah Aupong.
Efforts by the Gildipasi clans to conserve their natural environment are part of a bigger development picture the community is considering. For the coastal clans, it is a realization that some valuable members that form their natural environment have been missing.
All bigpla piece blomipla long mouse blongwara, natu long solwara. You know, before I walk lokamare through long nambis wesanya, the sol namipa na plukimolmo. Na trasol, you know, so we come up close to, before I'm so we come up close to, the sol now it finished.
Conservation areas within Gildipasi protect their coastline and forest areas that are further inland. For the coastal clans, their tambu diwai will eventually make it here to protect leatherback turtles and other marine resources. Bunam says they are working to protect the turtles and other natural wildlife so that their children can learn about them by seeing them in their natural habitats. Wildlife and the environment are not the only things the Gildipasi clans are trying to save. Simporium is a member of the Dibaren clan who explains that originally there were 5 languages that the 12 clans spoke. They are Yambem, Manep, Waskia, Masir Kambuar, and the Kimbu languages. Of the 5, only 4 remain. The Kimbu language is no longer spoken and it is said to have died out. Of the remaining 4, the community is working to strengthen the Manep, Waskia, and Masir Kambuar.
One papa na brata iwok stop pass through one papa. All work some of that took place. Or tumuna bumita, oli yusim longen, kamo papa bumita na papa ikamo pigini igator. Or brata iwok long stop na go pass longen.
They have also sought help from outside to guide them to revive their languages.
One school been come up took place school long tokain na oli gonsa longen. Na mi pay ratin so waro na mi pay wok try best too long speaking.
He explains that the community also realized that there is an urgency to maintain cultural practices and activities.
Long challenge belum mipla, dikla something mipla luki mosem. All pikin ni belum now, all lok bagarap, osem. Kain all ting we all nasawe lokal sa blok bless. All no sabe lo pasi no custom lo place.
Simporium says the knowledge to make traditional accessories for dancers are slowly being lost.
Long tidok emiosem wamplakan bila soli sebe semapim tidok do pasim. Dera ino kalo mi plana. Before ga rob blong emiet oli sa wokim so now mi pla paulo ketalo wonem rob bampa yusim lo jara semapim sa tidok. And finish. Nem to so bampa sabe na blong wokim something mi plana sa.
Simporium says apart from that, the knowledge about which tree bark to use to make malo or traditional loincloth is also being lost. The handful of people who hold this knowledge need to pass them on before they are lost forever.
Kisimol pikin ni pitimol wen sala disla classroom teachimol long education go behind time so mi pla putim kalsa to go inside pasi na custom go disla place.
Simporium says he holds some knowledge of how to make some of those accessories.
Mi wo kala ni mo pikin ni do mi program. Na no kama place kaya yet donam or pikin ni wo kata wo go out of school so mi wo kama time long. Mi gat mi sa okin program long pikin ni long. Time holiday time mi sa kami sa.
Dibor village gets its name from the river that flows nearby. It is part of a community organization that calls itself Gildipasi Community Planning. Gildipasi is an acronym of significant landmarks within the customary land boundaries of the 12 clans that make up Gildipasi. The Dibor River forms part of that acronym and sits within the Dibaran clan. When I arrived in the village, I noticed what looks like a tree with open coconuts hanging from it. This ceremonial tree is called a tambu diwai, and it sits in the middle of the village as part of a significant ritual that took place in 2013.
Despite the right solo, so kaya na suspect. Na ground arem, cloud arem, wind.
Bunam Peter is the chairman of Gildipasi and says the ritual marked a critical intervention.
Ogata clan ibin giving bell blongol long tok nogat no go zone.
Of the 12 clans within Gildipasi, 4 are coastal communities and 8 are from inland areas. In 2013, they all agreed to conserve some areas of their customary land because they realized that a lot of their natural environment was being destroyed by unrestrained use.
Mi plagat olga something, mi play no short lowan pa something. Mi plagat inap. Tasol mi pla looking mosem, mi playet rabisim tu. Na look all outside line to rabisim tu. Na outside all communities stop close to all close to him tu.
This tambu diwai is specifically for the coastal clans, which includes Dibaren, Matev, Maguben, and Kibom. Initially, they went through a process of creating a conservation agreement with the assistance of a lawyer.
I think I'm pla trying. Kisim blo white money kam. Na mi pla trying putting one time blo mi pla place. Na mi pla ting long. Walking this pla road blong. Sanapim target na. Make him tambu na this pla na mi pla looking.
John Mato is a founding member of Gildipasi and says after that experience, they felt they needed something that naturally stirs a sense of respect and reverence and traditionally binds them to the agreement.
Long all white man is our signing paper.
The various aspects of this tree hold deep spiritual meaning. The 5 open coconuts symbolize recognition and agreement.
All meat blong dry stuff inside here, no meat nothing too. Despite dry to solo, so kaya na suspect. Na ground arem, cloud arem, wind, sun looking, na ground ni Tok Piksa, long something by come up.
The tanget or cordial leaves that are attached to this tambu diwai are taken from sacred burial grounds, and this adds to the spiritual significance.
Tanget ya imakim olida usait olive bin tokosem by nogat na oleti tok na all through my knife same time lord sa draya mas op. Diwai tu and same time tu makim aus. One pla aus mantasol oli kam na pasim na and by pass.
Since the erection of this tree over a year ago, the Dibor people have been changing the coconuts and leaves on it because this is not its final resting place. It will eventually make its way to the coast. Members of the community realize the significance of this ritual.
Big pla poret kisi mi pla now. That's all. Suppose you broke me go inside and by you. I sick or die straight.
John says there is danger associated with this, but this needs to happen for the good of the community.
Yes, I'm by Bagarapim suppose me playing or being him talk blue. I'm by Bagarapim.
For the 8 inland clans, they mark their traditional agreement by planting tangets or ceremonial plants during the agreement ceremony in 2013. Each of them took back a cutting of the tangets to plant at their conserved areas. This conservation will be in effect for 5 years.
Mino sem despla up by me pla pasim longan by family community or area by I tambu through along camputim lek noas. I got mark na time me play marking finish long me play can open to.
And those stories round up another edition of Tok Piksa. If you missed out on anything tonight, you can catch the replay of the show on Wednesday evening. If you have any story ideas you'd like to contribute, you can send them by email to the address showing on your screen. And until we do this again next Sunday, I'm Neville Choi. Good night.
Bye.